Okay. Hello. Okay. Can you hear me right?
Yes, Krish.
Okay. So, good evening, everyone. Uh, I would like to welcome you to this very anticipated workshop on Java Spring Framework. We have planned this workshop for quite some time now. Uh, uh, from the Meghalaya development community side, we have seen that this framework is one of the most uh, needed framework in our line of work. And so from the Meghalaya developers community, we have decided that we will be giving a workshop, 1 month workshop on this framework, as it will help most of the programmers, developers. Um, so most of you here are basically, some of you are students, some of you are teachers or programmers, or who are working in different companies. Um, some of you might be knowing Java pretty well, but for some of you this might be a fresh, a new framework. So this session is a kind of opportunity for those who have already know those who have already have knowledge of Java Spring Framework to get more detailed knowledge about it. And for those who are just starting this framework, means this is an opportunity for you to learn and to get the proper basics of it. Um, Java, as we know, is one of the most powerful framework in our line of work. Who doesn't know Java? And especially with Spring framework, it has become more and more consistent in the development world. We are very excited to have this workshop. I myself am a very I like Java, and I do believe that all of you joining here also feel the same way. So before we dive into this workshop, into this session, I would like to mention that from our community side, we are trying as much as possible to help our developer community by holding such sessions. These are free sessions, and no payment is needed, just you need to register. And we are trying as much as we can to broaden our community and to help, when it comes to these session workshops on different practices for a developer. And also in terms of work line also, if there are any opportunities, we do post in the group. So uh, I would really, I am very thankful for MDC to be part of MDC also as the co-members, so that through them, through this platform, we are able to hold such events or sessions, and to give more to the developing developers community. Before we start with our session, we have with here our resource person, who is Mr. Avijit Debnath. Mr. Avijit Debnath is he's a real respected expert in the field of Java, and he's an expert in enterprise application development with more than 12 plus years of experience in building, how do we say, robust, scalable applications. Using Spring ecosystem. Mr. Avijit here has been working in different companies. He's also working with us in NIC and helping not just NIC, but then the different departments of our government also in hosting such robust and scalable applications. And also he's also giving lessons to anyone who are willing to learn from him. And he was also passionate about teaching others, especially developers, how to write clean, maintainable, and efficient code. So we are very happy to have Mr. Avijit here with us. Um, With this, I would like to welcome all of you to this Spring Framework workshop. And I hope that we will be having a productive and inspiring evening. It is a 1 hour session, but I hope that we can learn as much as possible. Without further ado, I would like Mr. Avijit to carry on with the session. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Christopher, for that such a wonderful speech. Okay, so I'll take the stage now. So let me introduce myself. I'm Avijit Debnath. I've been working for long in the Java enterprise development. Am I audible, right?
Yes,
Hello.
yes, we can hear you. Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So I'm certified Oracle professional also. I have almost 6 certifications on Java. So I worked in multiple MNCs also. So whatever I have learned from there, I have collected how to learn the Spring Boot very easily and how to use it in microservice architecture. So I'll share all the details with you so that if you are already working in some company or some organization as a developer or is a fresher, if you are a fresher, it might help you. So just on that note, I'm starting my presentation. So I'm just sharing my screen. Is it visible? Okay, thank you. So let's start our session. That means this is what we are going to do. It's a enterprise Java application development on Spring Boot. But before directly jump into Spring Boot, I just wanted to clear who is freshers. Just who is already has the experience. Just bear with me. Okay. So I just wanted to know them how to start a project, how to learn a technology. So there are many things using which you have to know before you start coding. So what are those things? We'll go one step by step. So these are the objectives of our workshop. SDLC. What do you mean by SDLC? I know that I am not asking talking about the full form of SDLC. So what is client server? You already know client server. Okay, that is very good. Then the basics of Spring Boot, RDBMS, JPA, CRUD. If we can manage time at the end of the month, so I'll show you how to do it in microservice architecture, how to implement Spring security, containerization, Docker, all these things. But yeah, so let's start with the introduction first. Today's session will be mostly theory. From the next class, we'll be doing practically. So what are the prerequisites for the practical? That also I'll be telling you. So let's start with the software development life cycle. So what are the things? There are the 6 very important things you have to know. So requirement gathering. So what do you mean by requirement gathering? So once you start any project, right, you have to know what about the project. That is the part of the system analysis. So who does this one? Normally in a small organization or any government organization, normally programmers does that. But if you are going for a private organization, there is a specific people. That's why this is specific to those people only. They'll be doing. They might not be an engineer or software engineer. They might be from some other profession also, but those people normally engineer plus they do what MBA also, so they know how system works, they know the how software works. So combining both the knowledges, they can do the system study properly. But if you're very rational, your thought process is very good, you can do system study very nicely. But this is the crucial point: if you mess up in this stage, all your application will be destroyed. So this is the very important part, information gathering. So in this section, we'll be designing the all the diagrammatic things, how application will work. Uh, Everything has to be designed in this requirement gathering session. Now, design part, who will be designing the software? So basically, if it's a large software, architects are there. It might, so not only one architect, one is the system design architect, one is the, for if you are working in Java architect will be there. They'll be designing all the architects, they'll be structuring what are the what are the, that means designs flows, and what are the design patterns you are going to use. Everything has to be decided in this section, that is the design phase. It is, I'm not talking about the UI design or backend. It is an architectural design. So all the programmers in private company follow this architectural design. They cannot deviate from that route. So this is already designed. So this is very next very crucial and important part of software development. Now development
Abhijit,
works. Now, hello.
Abhijit,
Yes, yes.
yes. So sorry to interrupt you, but can you like zoom your slide?
Okay, okay, okay. Sure, sure. Thank you.
Okay, okay.
Is it okay?
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, thank you.
Okay, okay. Thanks. So in the development stage, what you do now, if you are learning programming, that's whatever you are learning, that is good enough. But if you are doing any enterprise development, you have to know certain things along with the coding. Those are the design patterns, solid principles. Those are very, very important. Any code you write, you have to follow that one. Where will be using and code that refactoring, how to do this. So these things matters whenever you write code, how to write an optimized code. So in development phase, we do all these things. Whoever the developer, they take care of everything, but still everything has to be tested. I'm not next section, you can see that is the testing. So in this testing section, it's not about the software testing only. Everything, what, how you have written code, how your, whether your code is optimized or not, everything has to be tested in the testing phase. Testing phase is segregated in different sections. So I'm not going into those sections now. It will be very difficult. It will be, say it will be another 7-8 hours conversation. So just consider software testing is there, but it is a quality testing, user acceptance testing, integration testing, everything has to be done in the testing phase. Now deployment is another. Now if you are deployed in a Tomcat or Apache, whatever you are using, okay, now deployment process, because once you're talking about Spring Boot, that means you will be using in a microservice architecture, right? So deployment process matters, how you deploy, whether you are orchestrating your deployment process, you need a CI/CD pipeline. So what is CI/CD pipeline, what is orchestration, I'll be explaining everything, don't be worried about that. So whenever you are deploying, you are normally deploying in a Tomcat. Okay, that is a dedicated server. But whenever you are talking about Spring Boot has embedded Tomcat inside. That means you no need to deploy your application into a specific server. You can deploy your application. That means your application will be either will be a jar file or war file. Okay, and using the Java command, you'll be running that, and it will be run in that environment. So taking that advantage, so we can deploy these things in Docker, Docker Swarm, Kubernetes. These are the orchestration tools. That means, for suppose you have developed an application X, that application is accessed by everybody. But whenever you are talking about microservice, this X is split into multiple sections. That means X1, X2, X3. All the X's will serve the same purpose. That means will give you the same result. But why we are doing that? Just to optimize, just to serve people nicely, very fast way. This orchestration helps. So we'll have a load balancer. I'll be explaining everything that load balancer or orchestration later on. Just keep in mind those terms. So these are the parts of deployment process. Okay, for this is a specific certifications are there, how to deploy. That means for the whole cycle deployment process, proper certifications are there. I'll be explaining those things also later on. So this is all about the deployment. Now maintenance is very important. Normally, if you are using a monolithic application, what do you mean by monolithic? That is also it's in slide I'll be explaining, and what is in microservice architecture. If you are using a monolithic application, easy to maintain. Okay, but if your application is monolithic, but it has become very large application, then maintenance is a very difficult task. Okay, that's what, whenever you're using microservice also, you are, as you are deploying in a cluster or Docker, whatever the cluster you are using, there also maintenance is there. Which pod is up, which pod is down, everything you have to maintain. So maintenance is a very crucial part. You need a proper DevOps engineer for deployment and maintenance, just for the application. But I'm not talking about the features and coding. It might be the department or or client requirement. You'll be adding slowly. So that is okay. That is, I'm not considering as an maintenance. That is an additional task you are getting. Maintenance means without changing the code. If you have deployed, how you are maintaining, suppose 10 years, 20 years, so people can get that service nicely, right? So if I get some feedback also from you, okay, if you want any question, intermediate question also, you can ask, okay, in between my explanation. Hello, yeah, okay. So that is the process. 6 stages we have to cover. So you have covered, all about all the 6 stages. Now the next part, what methodology? This has to be predefined. So this methodology is very important part of software development. Once you have designed your software, now how will you start development process? This is specifically related to development only. For this methodology section, normally many other methodologies are there, but most popular methodology, it's waterfall model, and next one is the agile. So let's talk about the waterfall model. So when we will be using the waterfall model, suppose you are doing a project and you know in and out from starting to end how project development will go. Okay, you know from the beginning only what are the things I have to cater, what are the things I have to report, everything. So in those cases, might be waterfall model helpful, but nowadays it is getting obsolete along with the microservice. So if you are going to a private company, everybody follows agile methodology, but I'm not saying agile methodology it's very good. Now they are coming up with the hybrid concept, hybrid methodology. They merge waterfall model and the agile methodology, so that way they start the project. Okay, so normally agiles are very flexible, but sometimes it's very difficult to manage also. You have already written the code in agile methodology. Suppose you got a software from a client, many rules are there. You cannot ask question people, that means your client, I have already done, I am not going to do. Just many people are doing that. So that is the first rule. If you get any input, implement it immediately. That is the part of the agile methodology. That's where the queries comes, you have to resolve it without asking any question, do it like that. But as in waterfall model, you have already decided from the prior what are the things will be doing. In that case, intermediate questions are on becoming, right? So in the for a small applications, agile waterfall is okay, but if you are doing big applications, microservice, agile methodology will be helpful. Okay, so now to implement this methodology in industries, there are using many tools. So most important tool they are using for agile, that is the Jira and Scrum or Kanban. So so these are the tools. That means in agile, whenever you are working in agile methodology, right, you'll be, that is the concept of giving ticket. This in waterfall also you can do, but that is a stages, that is because you are bounded to a time frame. Suppose you are assigned a task, you will be getting for 4 hours to finish that and update into the Jira. So that's why Jira is a project management tool which will help, who is supposed for the project manager can identify who is working, how much time they are taking. Everything has to be captured in Jira. They'll be issuing a Jira ticket. Suppose issue with a command, issue with a suppose combo box. They'll be creating a Jira. This issue address in address details, state is not getting populated. So they'll be creating a ticket. They'll be assigning it to a developer. So that is a Jira ticket we call. Okay, so that is a project application tool. So all these are integrated nowadays. So all the tools talk to each other actually. So all the tools talk to each other actually. So Slack, this is for video conferencing. Whenever you are following agile methodology, normally sprints are there.
This one
Sprints
actually
means
klasa
10 minute,
mulu
15
panakulay
days, 7 days sprints are
ano
there.
motor
So they'll be assigning a job.
tung
So a group of tickets will be created and will be assigning to the different developers for that particular sprint. Okay, then they'll be submit, they'll be
Abhijit,
doing all, fixing all the bugs whatever the development is required. Then after the end of the sprint it will go for the production. So intermediate things are also there. Suppose 7 days you'll get for development, next 5 days will be for testing. That means you'll be deploying the application into the demo environment. So testing will be done. From the demo it will go to the QA. From the QA everything is done. At the end of the
Abhijit,
sprint it will go to the production. So that's why
Abhijit,
this way agile actually been followed. So agile, the purpose of agile is like that only. So you have to follow, if do whatever the task and Jira has been assigned to you, you have to finish within that sprint. Okay, so
Abhijit,
these tools, these
Abhijit.
are the tools. Huh?
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah,
Hello.
yeah. Can you post? Yeah, can you post for one?
Yeah.
Yes. So sorry, sorry. Hello, Ivan. Ivan. Hello, Ivan. Please mute your mic. Ivan. Hello, Ivan. Hello, Ivan. If you're there, please mute your mic.
I think he's not there, I guess.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, okay, okay. You can continue.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, man. Yeah. So Slack for the video if for whenever you are following agile in waterfall model, so basically this is very important in agile methodology. As you are assigning multiple tickets every morning, you'll be assigning a ticket, there will be a call. Some company does the team call or Zoom call or Google Meet, whatever. This is the collaboration part. So that means these tools they use for collaboration and communication, and they will be assigning the tickets to you in the morning of the day. In the evening again they will come for the another team meeting. So whatever the Jira has been assigned, they'll ask for the that means what is the status of that Jira. So everybody has to that means explain there what are the issues, what you have fixed. So this is a very important part for the agile methodology. Next is the GitLab. So this is whenever you are working in an environment where multiple persons are working in the same project. That means in those cases version control is very important part. Okay, so all the source code whatever you are working, that will be stored in a centralized repository that is called the GitLab. Okay, GitLab or Git. So GitLab manages those tickets of the Jira and your code, so that whenever you finish your that means task you assign, it will be automatically merged into not automatically, you have to commit your code. So once you commit, it will go to the GitLab or Git. Then you have to update your Jira, that means this task has been done. So these are all are related actually. So now deployment part, as I told you already, at the end of the sprint you have to deploy. That means your team will be deploying the application. So, okay, once testing is done, everything is done. So that is how it is done. Nobody is deploying manually nowadays. So that there is a whole pipeline is there. Those are called the Jenkins pipeline, GitLab, CI/CD. Many things are there. Azure is there. If you are using AWS, for AWS is also there. Those pipelines are there. So you have to use those pipelines are already configured by the DevOps engineers. Just push up a button, everything will get deployed into the production. So this pipeline, this tool is very important. Knowing about these tools, it's very important. It is, you have to know about the Linux also if you are working in Jenkins CI/CD or DevOps. Okay. Now unit testing, these things are in the testing phase. I kept it, I should keep it in prior only. So I kept it here, let it be. So in this testing phase, different kinds of testings are there in microservice architecture. For backend, unit testing is there. Okay. Selenium is for front-end developer, and these two. are for front-end developer. Then the Postman is for if you are developing in REST API using the Spring Boot. So Postman, you can check whether your desired output is coming or not. So this is very important. And Prometheus and Grafana, uh, and SonarCube. These are very important tool. In private big MNCs, you cannot mess up with your code. You cannot write junk code which is not required. Suppose instead of declaring a primitive data type, you have declared a wrapper class. So that means, yeah, but that wrapper class doesn't fit in that method. Both are integer. Both are integer. You have used capital INTGER, and somebody instead of that used INT. Just a primitive data type. Prometheus and SonarCube will monitor everything. They will scan your code, how you have written code, everything. If there is an issue, it will throw error. Everything has to be there. Whether you have written proper test cases or not. If you don't write test cases, that means that code coverage won't be there. If code coverage percentage is less, they won't be sending the code into the production. Okay, if your test cases are running fine and smoothly, failing of your application is very less, very less. That's why you should learn unit testing also. If you are a backend developer, if you're a front-end developer, you should know the Selenium. So these are very important tools. And if you are a full stack developer, you have to know everything, starting from CI/CD, everything. Okay, so this tools part, we have understood, right? Now most of you, all of the programmers, are already familiar with the client server architecture. That is fine. So that means you have deployed an application into the server. Server is accessing the database. Okay. Now, whenever client requests come from mobile or tablet or any PC through the internet, it goes to the server. Server checks whether it is a persistence or database related queries. It will ask for the database related queries to give the output. So it will get back to the server, and server will return to the client. This is the client server architecture. So now this has been followed for a long time. Now also it is running the same way, but now orchestration has come. So I'll be showing you later on how to do that, means how things are working actually. So this is client server architecture. Okay. So now this is very important part. If you are doing Spring or Spring Boot applications, what will you do with the Spring and core Spring? What will we be doing with the Spring Boot applications? So normally whenever you are using core Spring, core MVC, that means in those cases, those applications are monolithic applications. That means your UI, your business logic, your persistence layer, that is the database layer. Just keep in mind, whenever I'll say persistence, that is related to database thing only. So everything is encapsulated in one package. That means all the logics are tightly coupled. It's not a microservice, that's what. It's a monolithic application. You'll be deploying that application into a server. Prior, as we didn't have microservice, so what we are doing, we are deploying the application in multiple server, and we are doing the load balancing. We are doing the load balancing from the hardware side. What do you mean by load balancing now? Suppose you have deployed an application and thousands of people are requesting that site. Correct? Now, after certain period of time, your application will get exhausted. So even if you are using monolithic application, so it is the first drawback. You are using monolithic application, scalable. That means if you have large audience, so it will exhaust. So in that case, to resolve this problem, prior what was done, they deploy the same application in server 1, server 2, server 3. So on top of that, they will have a load balancer. So suppose this is the application, this is the server, they will be deploying in multiple server, and in this section they will be having a load balancer hardware level. So that hardware level load balancer is distributing. That is okay. But problem arises if there is any update in any module, you have to deploy all the applications. Suppose you had deployed prior same application in 10 servers, you have to deploy the same application in 10 servers. So this is a tedious process, and you have to build the whole application. Suppose you have 10 modules, you have changed in a syntax only in one page. Just for that page, you have to build the whole application, and you have to deploy in 10 different servers. Okay. So this is the drawback of monolithic application. But if it's a very small application, you have less audience, you are deploying in a Apache or in a Tomcat server or Apache server, whatever. So in that case, it is easy also. It depends how your application will behave. How is that means number of audience, that those things are matters. Normally, if your audience target audience is more than 10,000, then it should be on microservice. Any application more than 10,000 users, it should go to the microservice. Okay, otherwise maintaining that if application is big, then it will be very difficult. Now, in whenever you go to the microservice architecture, that is very interesting. So what you are doing in microservice architecture, so we are segregating the tight coupling of the application. That means we are separating the UI. Prior, suppose you are developing a Java application or your JSP page, your servlet, your database access layer, everything is in same package. But here we have segregated. Once you segregate, now you are independent of technology. Suppose you have created an UI in React or Flutter or Android or any iOS for what is that, for iOS devices. Okay, so in that case, you are not directly accessing the application. What you are doing? You are accessing an APIs, REST API, SOAP API, whatever the APIs. Okay, that UI is independent of backend technology. Suppose one module you have designed in Python, another module you have designed in Java, another module you have designed in PHP. Okay, this UI doesn't care about that. What is your technology behind? But Java scales here very nicely because of Spring Boot. You can create different modules and deploy into the server, different servers. UI will call those servers and render those things into the UI. Now, as microservices comes, different technology also has evolved, just like Angular, React. These are only for related to UI. They cannot do server side coding. But to handle the server side coding, we have Spring Boot. Okay, so Spring Boot will provide you the server side code, and your job is just to render. Now, because of that, developer community has split it. One, some company want specifically UI developer, some company want specifically a backend developer. But in between this, just to link up, there is a developer. The type of developer, those are the full stack developer. In a team, one full stack developer must be there, and they are getting very good pay. If you know UI and backend also, you'll be getting very good pay. So that is very important, and you have to work hard to learn the UI also, to learn the backend also. And if you know CI/CD also, then so no one can stop you. Okay, so now UI normally what happens? I'm talking the UI also is scalable. Just for the time being, I have deployed UI in a server. You have created a React application and deployed that UI in a server. Okay, so now that UI normally React are thread safe. So whatever the request comes doesn't matter. They are not doing the data processing, data accessing. They doesn't care. So you deploy one instance, it will work like a charm. Okay, but if you want to orchestrate, you can orchestrate that one. Okay, now that service, suppose you have created the same application like monolithic. Here it will be different. I'll be going to the next slide. I'll be giving you one example. Okay, just let me go to the next slide so it will be clear. So this is an e-commerce site for the monolithic application. So what we have, UI, Shopify, catalog service, counter, discount, and order service. So all are encapsulated in the same application. Okay, suppose if you are changing anything in the shop UI, you have to deploy the whole code, and this whole bunch of code is accessing this database. Okay, all see, I told you prior, right? One server, the hardware level load balancer is there in monolithic application whenever you will deploy. So this is the load balancer. All the requests will come, and load balancer will check in which server, suppose, has the less load. They will forward the request into that server. So that was a hardware level load balancer was working that way. So now here, as you can see, shop all are deployed in the same server. This is very tedious. What microservice does in that case? So you can see client app. So you have web app and mobile. It will go to the API gateway. So what is API gateway? I'll explain you later on, whenever I'll explain microservice properly. So now you can see they have split it, shop UI, catalog, everything into different applications. That means they have created separate application, Spring Boot, if you can consider. So Spring Boot application and deployed into the different servers. And all the applications might be accessing the database servers, different database also. Suppose you are going to Amazon, you are able to log in, okay, fine, but you mm, cannot search, but you have already added some value into the cart, you want to buy those things, so no need to search. If search is not working, at least your, but that means add to cart product is are there, you can proceed for buying. But if it's a monolithic application, if one thing is not working, almost all the applications won't work. Okay, now as you have split it, the whole application into separate small pieces, small services. So one service is done, but another service will be working. Okay, so this way it will work. Now, what is API gateway over here? As you have implemented microservice, you will have different service. The how request will be getting dispatched or request will be served. So all the requests will be coming to the API gateway first. So API gateway will decide where to go, where to send the forward the request. So depending on your requirement, it will call that specific service. Now here also particular design patterns are there. Normally 7 most popular design patterns are there, how to design an microservice architecture. So most popular one is the API gateway in the front of any service. Okay, all the authentication, everything is handled. They are not doing the authentication from the database directly, but they can call the service authentication. Here authentication service I didn't put, so you can get the authentication service from there. So in that case, API gateway will help you to do that. So this is one kind of architecture. Now, if you go here, so this is the microservice. Suppose this is what is shopping UI. Sure, not shopping UI. That is catalog service. So whatever displayed in the catalog, you can select, you can buy from there. Now, whenever you are deploying an application in case of microservice architecture, same catalog application you'll be deploying in a multiple server. You have other services also, you'll be deploying those also, multiple instances. In that case, here after the UI we'll have software level load balancer. Okay, so to do the software level load balancer, we have Cloudera, not Cloudera exactly, the Spring Clouds are there. Okay, so we can use the Spring Clouds there. So they will be doing the load balancing work. From UI, request will come to that gateway, and that gateway will decide where to go, which service you have to call. Suppose you have two catalog service, which one is less, that is less traffic, they'll forward the request to there. So this is the part of orchestration. How will you orchestrate now? So once you developed an Spring Boot application, you have to deploy that application in Docker or Kubernetes. Okay, with multiple instances. That means catalog service multiple times. One dies, other will work, catalog service. In that case, search, if it doesn't work for one service, they'll provide you the details from the another service. But both are same service only, but deployed in a as a different instances. Okay. So now you can see different database also are there. Suppose if you are searching, so search related product will be here only. But if you have already added into the product, you can use a separate database for that. That is the part of microservice, because you don't need to search again. You don't want all the product, whatever you have to search, to check. From the cart service, that means for that separate database. That means whatever customer is buying, those details will be in different database. So in that way, database segregation also there. That means it's a horizontal scaling. Okay, in that way, load on the database also it will be very less. Okay, your software will work like charm. So that's why people use as the microservice architecture. So microservice, as a microservice developer, you have to know certain things. Prior it was not that important, now it is very important. You have to know Linux anyhow. If you want to be a good developer, whether UI or backend developer, you have to know Linux, because whenever you are deploying, developer has to write the Docker file. So if you are deploying into Docker, you have to write the Docker file. So if you are deploying in Kubernetes, you have to write the URL file. So those files you have to write. That means what do you will be writing in those files? That means you are telling your system, I need an image of Linux, a small Linux. Okay, so deploy my copy this jar file into this Linux environment, that is the virtual Linux, and deploy as using the Java code. No need to install Tomcat, because I told you prior, Spring Boot, if you making a jar, you can run using the Java command. All the commands you'll be writing there, just push it and it will deploy your application automatically. No need to worry about that. Okay, so that's why, so to do those things, to write those commands, if you know Linux, it will be helpful for you. Otherwise, you have to search for help. So but in that case, if you are searching for help in the private companies, as a developer for your own work, that doesn't look good. So better you learn side by side Linux also. Okay, that will be helpful for you. So this architecture, applicational architecture, I have already explained, right? So if you have any question till now, you can ask me. I'll be just waiting for 2 minutes. So just to know your, if you have any queries, any doubts, anybody, are you listening? I am not getting any respond. Anybody? Or see, if you are keeping quiet, that means you have either you have understood everything or you didn't understand anything. You are in which group? Just say no one. Okay. Okay, let's continue then. Okay. So what is the difference between Spring and Spring Boot? So as I already told you, in Spring, all the codes, everything is encapsulated in the same simple package, same package only. So you will be having XMLs, you will be having multiple configuration files. You have to do lots of things. But if your application is bigger and if you are handling multiple logics and you are not deploying, orchestrating those applications, no, it's wastage if you are using Spring Boot, because Spring Boot is made for small modules, not for big modules. Okay, but if you want to cater everything, you are not orchestrating those things, better go for Spring MVC. Your project will work nicely. Okay, so what are the things? AOP is there, wave flux is there. Wave flux is a way of writing code in a reactive way. Okay, that is the part of the reactive programming or functional programming. If you are heard about the functional programming, what is functional programming? If you want to learn about that, just research. It's a very good technology. It's a good way of writing code. Nowadays in private companies, demand is very high, because reactive programming are kind of, if you're implementing in Java, those things, it give you the feature for to make it thread safe also. Okay, not exactly, not, I shouldn't use the thread safe term over here. So it will give you to write code in that way. So if I am saying what is thread safe, okay, what is serverless one, and which application needs a server. Suppose if you are developing an application in the Node.js, normally these are serverless. These are not thread safe. Thread safe doesn't mean it is bad. That means it won't block your request or wait for your request where to go for the next stage. Okay, it is very fast. Suppose normally Google, Amazon, everybody using this type of programming language, functional programming, web flux. If they are using Spring, they are going for that means what serverless type of things. Okay, if you are using Node.js, it is kind of that. Okay, so you can, if you are doing that core MVC, then you will get the, that means core Spring, that is you will get the MVC, wave flux, ORM, that is the Hibernate, and object relational mapping, then AOP. So AOP reduces the workload. That means same code you no need to write multiple times. Suppose you want to throw exception, but everywhere no need to mention that one you are logging. You can configure in one place and specify the package name. It will do the job for you. So these things are available in the Spring, core Spring. But in Spring Boot, You no need to configure anything, it's already configured. Okay, so you just create an application from Spring IO, just open it in your Eclipse, you start writing code. That is so simple. But for big application where you have many reporting, many things, I won't suggest to go for a Spring Boot. Even if you, apart from Spring REST API, you can develop, you can create your own pages, JSP pages or theme lab pages also inside the Spring Boot. But what I'll suggest, if your application is big and you are not orchestrating them, go for Spring. If you are working on microservice architecture, you have to work in small modules, go for Spring Boot. Okay, so let's move into the next section. What are the things there in Spring Boot? Okay, so this is not exactly the Spring Boot architecture, it is Spring architecture. So Spring Boot also works like same way. So what are the things there? When a client request comes to your server, what your application does? So application has a security guard over there. So what is that? That is the controller. It says it controls your request. Okay, if you go for that means monolithic application, they are also controller, but before that controller, dispatcher servlet is there. So you have to map everything in the dispatcher servlet, and controller will serve them. Okay, but in Spring Boot it is automatically done by the Spring Boot. So internally you don't need to do anything. That means nothing is automated. Actually someone is done the job for you, so you don't need to worry about that. So so like that. So once any request comes to the controller, it will see what is your URL pattern. So any kind of URL, what type of URL pattern you have specified over there. So depending on your URL pattern, if you are using a Spring Boot application with JSP or ThemeLab, it will serve that page to you. If you are doing REST API, so then it will give you the JSON which you wanted. Or if you want to post some code, it will insert into the database. So depending on the URL, this controller will decide which layer we have to call. Okay, so now after controller doesn't do the database insert work, this and that work. Okay, controller just accepts the request and forward it to the service layer. Now service layer is the main person who will decide where to send. Suppose if you want to send it for for database insertion, okay, or querying from something database, so you'll be sending it to the database layer. Okay, otherwise if it is some related to something business logic or something else, there is another layer, I didn't mention it, it's not required now for you, but still I'm saying. So that layer is also there, it will send it to the domain layer. So that layer is called the domain layer. Now what is this model layer is doing over here? So whenever you are sending any request, suppose you are filling up a form, those forms are coming from the client, this controller saves those form data into the model. That means it's a kind of repository. Not exactly repository, but it's a kind of model. That means where data are stored temporarily. You can say that is a plain old Java object, just like you declare variable right, inside a class, right? That is like that only. So it will be stored into the model. So now service layer, what you have to do, service layer can pick up the value from the model directly. So you don't need to accept from the HTTP request again. So you from the HTTP request, you already set it to the model. Now you can use the model wherever you want. You want to use it in a service layer, you can use it service layer. In controller layer, there is another branch that you can do the validation. Okay, if you want to do the validation, you can send it to the validator. So you send the model, validator will does the job. If there is anything, it will send back to the client. A controller will send back to the client, okay, your data is wrong, something is not matching, so you correct your data. Okay, so validator does things. So what validate? Suppose you have inserted declared an attribute in a class, that is integer phone number. Okay, but from client, in the phone number field they have written ABCD. So that is not correct, right? You have declared as an integer and it is sending an string, and it is not valid also, whether it is a proper phone number also. That validator, once it reaches the controller, call the validator, verify my data. Okay, so then validator will verify, they'll see, okay, this portion has the problem, It will tell to the controller, send it back to the client. So the client will send back to then controller will send back to the client, then they can rectify on that. Okay, so that is kind of validation. Okay, so normally two types of validations are there. One is a client side validation, but client side validation can be bypassed very easily using third party tools. So client side validation doesn't matter whether you do or not, but it will save your time, then users time who will be doing the data entry, because going to the server and coming back then telling okay this is wrong, instead of that you verify in the client also, so that nothing will goes wrong. But why you are doing verification in the server again? Suppose somebody instead just trying to hack your system, or just to do something in your server and get the server data, how what are the server you are using, what type of things, because exception is been thrown, right? So to handle those things we have the validator. Okay, so it is handled in the controller section. If you handle it in a service layer also you can do it, but it is advisable to handle it in the controller layer. The service layer, once it is reaches to the service layer, then it sees the request. Okay, this is related to database. What will I do? I'll call my database. I'll send this my model to the database, and my DAO layer in database. For database, we have the DAO layer. Service will call the DAO, give the model, save it to the database. Now in Spring Boot, normally 90% people uses JPI, Java Persistence API. Okay, so if you want to know about more, you can do certification on Java JPI, Java Persistence API. Okay, that is very huge field actually. So what does it JPI does? Instead of directly communicating with your database, they will be creating an object for you. You save into the object, and that object, once you say you put it all the values into the object, and that object you save, it will automatically convert it into query and save into the database. Okay, JPA. On top of JPA we have Hibernate. Normally monolithic application uses Hibernate. JPA also you in Spring Boot also you can use, but Spring Boot has very good support for JPA, so no need to do that much. Okay, but you can still use the JPA validations engine, so it will validate from the model levels. Prior, if you remember, I have already told you validations are done in the controller layer, right? So how you are doing, you are calling the validator. That validation can be done in the model also. How? Before each field you can write the regular expressions. That is done by the Hibernate jars will be doing for you. That is another framework actually. So okay, whenever request comes, before sending it to somewhere else in model layer only, it will validate and say bye bye, you go back to your client. Okay, so now in the JPA repository, to in how to do this JPA repository. Okay, so if you want to save, instead of normal JDBC directly saving into database, you want to use some ORM tools. So you can use JPA. For JPA, you have to create different kinds of repositories. Okay, and you have to call those repositories to save, update, delete, whatever you want to do. So you no need to write specifically delete, update, search, query, anything. JPA repository just you have created and it will be done automatically. Not automatically. I shouldn't use the automatic. There is nothing automatic. Someone has done the code for you. Okay. So this way you can start that means structure your Spring Boot applications. Okay. So now this structure will come back later on how things are done actually. What are the prerequisites for your application now? First of all, okay, it's stopped. Okay, what are the prerequisites? You have to know Java properly. What are the things in Java you have to know? First of all, collection framework. It's very important. When to use map, when to use set, when to use set, when to use list, when to use tree, different kinds of collections are there. When to use map is very useful. You should learn map properly because map directly gets converted into JSON if you're using REST API. Okay, so learn map. You learn um, plain old Java object also. You learn how to handle this plain old Java objects, different interfaces, polymorphism, and inheritance is very important. If you are following design patterns, inheritance will play a very important role. Inheritance, so all the Java interfaces you learn how to create interface, different types of interfaces are there. Then what are the abstract classes? So these are very important. Try different looping. If you are into the Java after Java 8 you are continuing, so then you learn Java Lambda. That is very important because Java Lambda is very fast than the normal traditional looping. So you have to learn Java. So then after, once you are clear about Java, then what you have to do, you have to gather that is configure your tools. Suppose you start nowadays, you can start from Java 21 also, but you can stick with Java 17 also, don't go below that. Okay, so you download Eclipse for Java enterprise development. You install Java over there, Java 17 or higher, configure your Eclipse. Okay, so you can search for YouTube videos also how to configure Eclipse with Java. So after that, what can you do? You just go to the Spring IO. Okay. Yeah, it is Spring. You can say start spring.io. So here it will give you the, that means it will give you the project for you. That means basic project so that you can start your Spring development. So what are the things are there? Just let me explain them one by one. So this is the project type and the languages you can select. So now most popular one is the Maven repository. Prior what developers are doing, they are downloading the jar one by one from the online repositories and they're putting into their project and adding into the project. Now, because of Maven and Gradle, you no need to go through those hassle. This Java dependency, jar dependency, everything will be taken care by this XMLs. Okay, so once you use this Maven, it will create an pom.xml file. So all the libraries will be mentioned over there. So you no need to play with your jars. So I'll suggest go for Maven. So it's very rich and all the jars are there. So go for Maven. Then language you can select Java if you're working on Java. Otherwise you can go for Kotlin. Okay, now this is the most stable version. I am also working on this. It's a 3.5.4. You can select this one. Now here, before doing anything, you give your artifact ID. Suppose any project, suppose school project or any project, e-commerce. So I'll just give an name. So once you write, whatever you'll write, your project name is suppose ABC, you can see these things are getting changed. This is very important. Then first part here always should be your project name only. Remaining part should be your package name. So that's why I give the artifact first. Then you go to the group. Suppose if you, instead of example, if you want to, if you are creating API, just give API. Now you can see your package name. First one is the com, next one is the API, third one is your ABC, whatever your project name. Okay, so this way you can configure what should be your package name. Now packaging, what type of packaging? If you are creating only API, no JSP pages are there, I'll suggest go for jar. Okay, if you are orchestrating your application as a REST API, you'll be working on React and Angular, go for jar. But if you want to use Spring Boot as a monolithic application, you want to use a JSP everything, go for war file. Okay, this will generate configuration as in different way. Okay, so now once you click generate, it will generate the template for you, which you can open in your Eclipse. You can start working. Now I'm not talking about here. You can see whole libraries are there. Okay, what you can add? Eh, you can add for the beginning dev tools. So you can use this library DevTools, but it is optional. If you don't want to use, also fine. DevTools will give you the feature whenever you will save now, it will hard reload. but sometimes it's, I feel sometimes it is buggy also, it doesn't reload. You have to run, you build and run again. So okay, if you want you can use, otherwise no need to use. So what it will do, if you just create from here, you have specified everything, generate, it will give you the basic. Now you can see I have given the application name ABC, so ABC has generated. So I'll take this file, I'll go over here, I'll just keep it and extract it. So this is the basic file. Okay, so now I'll open my Eclipse. Okay, so if I open my project from the desktop, ABC, now you can see here ABC project has opened and it has a POM file. Okay, I cannot increase my font over here now, so just bear with me. So this is the POM file. I'll take it in a notepad. Hope you can see. So this is the POM file, right? So here, what type of your application name, what type of packaging you are using, what is the snapshot of your application, everything is mentioned. You can use the developer information. You can specify your name. You are the developer. You are doing this part. These things you can mention. And this is the plugin section. Okay, let it be. This is the main dependency section. Okay, so what it is what it is doing, it is by default adding the Spring Boot default jars for you so that you can run the application. So I have a demo application. Just let me go to there. Suppose this is the application. So now this project, this will create this type of a structure. So this is my POM file. And inside the resources folder, if you expand this here, you'll get two folder where your all your Java codes will be there, and in the resources folder, you'll get an application.properties. If you're running as a jar file, you have to specify and run as without Tomcat in serverless. With the embedded server, you have to specify over here what is the port, and this is your application name. You can specify over here. And if you expand this main.java, you'll get some more classes. So what are the classes? These classes I have created. Apart from this, these two other classes is automatically get created. Let me show you from the project which is we have already downloaded. See here, you can see as I have created a jar jar. So it has given me one class. So this class will help you to run your application. Okay, now is at the rate Spring Boot application. Once it is written, that means it is telling your application it is automatically configured and it is an Spring Boot project. You can run it just writing a command. That's all. So for today, so that's all I think. So you just go to this site and try to create your project and download and open it in Eclipse. Try to do. So how to run this one, just let me show you. Just right click this one, your project, and run as maybe install. But before run, what are the things you have to do? Once you have opened your project, just right click update Mapin. This is your first job. You do the update project and you can select force. You can see your project is selected and you select force over here. Select force and okay. So it will pull the jar from online and will keep all the jars inside your package. Okay, so now in dependency section, you can see this has all the jars. If I go over here, just let me see this is our package. Everything has pulled from the Maven. So you just do first thing, go to your Maven and update your project, force this one. Okay, once you force, it will pull all the related jars because I have already opened for the task. Sometimes it automatically downloads. So, but it is best thing you should do this step. Next, go to the install and maybe install. So after install, it will create the jar for you. Once jar is created, then you go over here, run as a Java application. You have to do this one. Then it will show you it is running in a particular port which you have specified over here prior, not in this application. This is the just we have downloaded. So I'll show from here. So this is the port I have specified over here, support. So this more about theory and this development process I'll explain, because theory architecture of Spring controller, how to organize things, I have need to explain. I will be explaining in the next session. So thank you very much, Krish. You can take it up now.
Uh, Thank you, Avijit. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. Uh, I thank you for that insightful work. Like session. We got to know mostly basics of the Java framework, Spring framework. So what do we have to do and what we need to do? What are the requirements and configurations and all? So we have time. So if anybody wants to ask any questions, we are open for questions for just a few minutes.
Yeah, you guys, if anybody has any question, please ask, because it shouldn't be one sided, right? If I'm explaining, I am expecting also you should respond on that.
Yes,
Yeah. Express.js is it's a different thing. Dependencies means you can see over here. If you go to the POM, it has downloaded jars, right? Might be the mechanism is same, but it is not the same jar or same libraries, right? Java has their own libraries. Express.js it's a different thing. I never worked on Express.js. I cannot say that much because I think it's a UI, right? Shobik Das is asking, right? Shobik?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So Express.js it's related to UI, right?
No, no, sir. It's a backend language, sir. We-
Express.js. Oh, it's a
Yes,
JS related to JavaScript, right?
yes, sir. But it is
Yeah,
a no.
it's a node also. It's like a Java server side coding like that, right?
Yes, sir. It's a Node.js
Ye-
framework. So
Ah,
basically, dependencies. What I understand in Express.js
mm.
are like packages that are like used.
Yeah, that packages are not. How can it be same? That is in JS library, right? This is a Java library. Both are different language. You are writing the code in Java, so you need the Java library, right? In your Java project, if you import Python library, how will it work, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, so it's like that. So you cannot import, but the way, because there I don't know about their internal architecture, how they are pulling data from the server, that means they're downloading those libraries. I'm not into that, but for Java also it's a POM file. It is configured such a way, whenever whatever the jar you mentioned in the POM, while you are build, it will pull everything and keep into your project. So but mechanism is same, but these are jars are different.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Is there anybody wants to say anything? Yeah, Flutter also have same. React also have same. They have their different mechanism. But libraries mechanism might be same, pulling the jars or libraries. But jars you cannot use those jars in Java project.
so
Anyone?
any other questions? If not, we can close the session.
Yeah, yeah. I'll share it to Krish. Krish can share, or I can share from here also, right? Okay, give it to Krish. Krish will share into the group, or in group also I can share. No problem.
Yes, yes, you can share in the group of it. You're already there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just a minute.
You can share after the session also.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sure, sure, sure. Okay. Any questions,
Okay, so
guys? See, next class, next session, right? You just configure your Java, you install your Eclipse, okay, make it ready. We'll do coding together. It's not like that I'll be writing the code and you'll just looking into it. There, if you want to do that, you can go to YouTube also. Okay, so we'll be doing the live coding so that any issues comes, we can explain them. That's why this workshop, either people can learn from YouTube video also. So just make your setup ready so that we can start coding. I'll start with the basic things, slowly we'll move forward.
Okay,
It's
so
okay. Yeah.
yeah, so I would like just someone has asked like when is the next session? So the next session will be on the coming Saturday next week. We'll be having these sessions for the whole month of August, every Saturday with the same timing, 5 to 6 p.m. Every Saturday, and for the rest of August, we'll be having this session whole on Spring Framework. So if there are no more questions, we would like to close this session, and I would like Kirshan to please end the session with some notes.
Yes.
Thank you, Kirshan.
Okay.
Thank you, Abhijit.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we look forward to the next session.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank
Sure.
you everyone for participating. We will now close this session.